Keine Bewegung! Was wirst du noch bereuen?
Wolfenstein is one of the most acclaimed FPS franchises in gaming. The name itself carries a lot of weight, and with Wolfenstein Youngblood, that name is tarnished. This latest installment is at most a subpar title that rarely goes beyond the bare minimum. Oversaturated with tedious objectives, bullet sponge enemies, and a poor finale, Wolfenstein Youngblood is a massive step backwards for this once glorified series. Taking place years following the new Colossus, B.J. Blazkowicz and his wife have decided to leave the Resistance and raise their daughters Jess and Soph on a farm. The narrative opens up with the parents training their children in survival and combat. The opening scene has a lot of promise, highlighting high-quality choreography, character models, and animation, with the girls eventually leaving Paris to locate their father who has gone missing within the large city that is occupied by the Nazis. This is where Youngblood fails and takes a nosedive. Although Jess and Soph have some redeeming elements, acting like brash, tomboyish sisters, the rest of the cast are bland and uninteresting characters, with the story following a very predictable pattern right from the start. Nothing exciting or unexpected happens, and the story concludes on such an underwhelming note that directly resembles the new Colossus ending. It makes the entire journey just pointless. Youngblood is a cooperative shooter. You take control of either Soph or Jess, the twin daughters of B.J. Blazkowicz. You can play the entire adventure alone or with an ally. Fortunately, the online system does function, but the ally NPC is mostly cannon fodder and is basically brain dead. It only performs the basic functions, and it's common to see the NPC stand on oncoming fire, but at least it can shoot accurately. Much of the game focuses on buddy locks, requiring the player to constantly wait for their allies to interact with a specific gate before progressing. Fortunately, your NPC will instantly teleport to your location when you are performing these actions, but for human players this will quickly become an annoyance. The pep signals, which are new to Wolfenstein Youngblood, allow for timed abilities, offering a sense of teamwork as you boost the other player's health, defense, or armor. It's kind of strange that the abilities require you to do some sort of strange and somewhat foolhardy taunt before the action is actually activated, but for the most part it is a welcome addition to the cooperative gameplay and does make you feel like you're part of a team. The enemy AI isn't any better, and the difficulty is basically a joke. Instead of having challenging enemies, the game relies heavily on bullet sponge-like enemies in vast numbers. Some have unique armor that require a specific type of weapon to destroy them efficiently, but just use whatever weapon works well enough. It's common to fight 24 soldiers in a single area, and for some reason the developers brought back the infinite reinforcement system. For those who are unaware, back in previous Wolfenstein games, you would have to kill the commanding officer in order to prevent reinforcements from continuously entering the battlefield, which was an annoying feature then, and it's still an annoying feature now. Infinite respawns is not fun. It's similar to boss gauntlets. They should die. On harder difficulties, it's common that you won't have enough ammo to kill the vast armies of enemies given their absurd health. And since harder difficulties do not reward you with anything, not even an achievement or trophy if you're playing on Xbox One or PlayStation 4, it's just a waste of time to play the game on anything harder, especially considering that everything respawns once you leave the area. Youngblood does offer you the option to take things much quietly with stealth options. However, these are mostly unnecessary. During the beginning of the game, you do have to commit the stealth, as enemies will literally run you over. But once you get through the game, eventually stealth becomes unnecessary, especially considering that once one enemy locates your position, they suddenly all know where you are. You also can't return the stealth as easily, as enemies will instantly bombard the area that you are in always. Instead of a traditional FPS experience, Wolfenstein Youngblood has an RPG system, and it has been implemented to level gate much of the story content. In terms of quantity, there's only a handful of actual story missions, and everything else is basically tedious side missions involving you killing specific targets and collecting items. Every main story mission, with the exception of the final two, have you facing the same robotic Nazi enemy before eliminating two commanders. The environments do attempt to make these fights distinct, and they do look amazing, but you'll still be facing the same enemies over and over again, with the only difference being their level, and if you happen to be 1 or 2 levels below those specific enemies, they will kill you instantly. And if you happen to die during a mission, unfortunately, you go back to the beginning of the level. There are no checkpoints, at least from what I can tell, and you lose all your supplies. The only way you can get back your supplies for some strange reason is to head back to the HQ, which is the catacombs, and replenish your ammo at the armory. As you might expect, you gain experience by completing objectives and killing enemies. There's 3 skill trees that provide different skills and weapons gain levels as well. The skills you'll gain are your standard increased damage, health, camo, and other traditional boosts. Weapons upgrades are standard as well. You gain different parts that grant increased damage, rate of fire, and magazine size. These upgrades require silver and highlight the absurd grind needed to level up everything. To put things in perspective, after completing the game and most of the side missions, I only made it to level 40 and earned about 40% of my skills and 35% of the weapon upgrades within the game. There are daily missions that can provide additional experience, but without anything worth fighting for, there is really little point. Once you complete the game and the side missions, you've beaten the most powerful enemies in the game. Those seeking to get all the trophies and achievements will need to grind for dozens of hours to earn enough experience and silver to get everything. Not to mention that there are 6 different types of collectibles. On top of everything that I've just explained, there's also no pause function when you play the game alone, which is just bewildering. Why will you not include a pause function when you play alone? Not to mention there is a massive sound bug on the Xbox One X version of the game. In several situations I encountered that the sound would just cut off completely. I've also seen PC players experience this type of black box that just appears out of nowhere. It's extremely strange, but given after Fallout 76 is released, this is just not surprising from a Bethesda game anymore. The microtransactions in Youngblood are indefensible. Simply put, they can only be used right now to purchase cosmetics, but even the cosmetics are terrible. All of them are just plain designs that highlight how little effort went into them. Worst of all is that it showcases them that you can only obtain these cosmetics through premium currency, when in reality you can unlock them through gameplay. I say at the moment regarding the gold bar, premium currency can only be used for cosmetics, but according to the Steam page, it states that consumers will be used to purchase things such as boosters. Currently, publishers do have this insidious tactic where they do not turn on the microtransactions until the review period has passed. Similar to a more recent game is Call of Duty Black Ops 4, which didn't get the microtransactions that are now infamously linked to the game till after 2 or 3 weeks that the game was out and the reviews were already published. Wolfenstein Youngblood doesn't propel the franchise forward, and instead moves it backwards. Everything in this title has been done better in other games that feature similar systems. The only redeeming factor is the great cutscenes and animations. Everything else is just lazy and tedious. Do yourself a favor, save your $30 and buy Borderlands 2 instead.
Let me show you something.